Welcome to the latest edition of Big West Conference Small Talk Wednesday. I'm your host, Mike Villamore, and today's guests, coming from the islands, we have the University of Hawaii head women's soccer coach, Michele "Bud" Nagamine. First things first, I've got to ask you, where do you get the nickname Bud from Michele? What's the genesis of this nickname that you have here?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I grew up, I was a teenager during the 80s, and that movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High was wildly popular. And there was a character named Jeff Spicoli who always said, "Hey, bud, hey, bud." And I actually just kind of picked up on that "Hey, bud" saying. And I was playing on a women's team at the time. I was very intimidated because it was the top team in the state, and everyone was considerably older than I was because I was only 13 or 14. And I couldn't remember anybody's name. I was so, petrified to make mistakes and mess things up, get people mad at me. So they would say like, "Hi, Michele." I'd be like, "Hey, bud," because I couldn't remember anybody's name. And then I just became everybody's buddy, and the name stuck. So I guess the things to come out of Fast Times at Ridgemont High was, number one, it launched, Sean Penn's career. Number two, it sold a bunch of checkerboard shoes for Vans. And number three, I got Bud.
I had no idea the story behind that. That's awesome, Coach. That's awesome. One of the things that I know about you just from talking to other people is that you're a very outgoing social person. You love the University of Hawaii. You love being out at events at University of Hawaii. If there's something going on, you're around there. It's almost like you're kind of a brand ambassador for the university. Is that kind of an accurate statement?
I never really thought about it as a brand ambassador, but I think, being one of the few coaches who is a local girl, or somebody who, I grew up in Hawaii. I was born and raised here, and I have a deep love and affinity for not only our state, but for the university, and had loved my time at Santa Clara as I did. I would have loved to have been a Rainbow Wahine soccer player. So I think anytime I get a chance to be out in the community and spread the aloha, so to speak, I'm all for it.
Well, I bring up brands because you, before getting into this soccer world that you're in, you owned a business. You were in business, you owned a business. Describe what that was.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but I was not growing up in Hawaii just hoping and praying that I would be a soccer coach someday. As a matter of fact, back in the day, we had just started playing soccer competitively. And I basically fell into a soccer business. When I was 22 years old, I opened a soccer store with a very good friend of mine. And one of the things I really enjoyed was getting to build something from nothing. We basically came up with the idea at the back of a bus in Germany, touring when we were on a soccer tour of Europe with my former women's team, Leahi, and we came up with the idea to start a soccer store that basically provided really good customer service and kind of catered to women. And this was back in 1992. So I was only 22 years old at the time, launched the business. Everyone told my partner and I that we would be out of business in 5 years because two women with no business degrees and no experience in running businesses should not open businesses. And we were like, "Yeah, I'll show you." So that was one of the greatest experiences of my life, owning a retail soccer store that sold shoes, shin guards, uniforms, apparel, all that kind of stuff. It was fantastic.
Soccer in Hawaii is synonymous with your name.
Oh,
And well, it's true. I mean, from at least what I've read in your bio and from what I've been told, you've been involved in the soccer scene on every level in that state. You've taught club, you've coached at high school, you've done D2 at Hawaii Pacific, and now D1 at University of Hawaii. You've held every major position in the community. So walk me through that career path and kind of how you started going down the soccer foxhole as opposed to, being in the
the
business side. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question, and I think it starts with my desire to put back into my community. I kind of stepped back and reflected and said, I don't want any Hawaii player to go to the mainland and not think that they're good enough to compete. So what can I do to try to build confidence or share information and make sure that these kids feel like they have a viable opportunity to make an impact at no matter what level they play at. And that's how I got into the Hawaii Soccer Association coaching. I joined their board of directors. I was vice president of the Adult Hawaii Soccer Association. So just being immersed in all of the areas of the game really helped me to develop as a coach and as an administrator.
So what are the similarities between running a soccer program and building a business? Because essentially you're the CEO for both. So how do you implement what you've learned on the business side into building a soccer program?
Oh, wow, Mike, that's actually one question that I have never been asked before. So that's props to you. Great question. I think, it comes down to first and foremost to the people. Who are you going to build your business with? Who are you going to partner with? And then likewise on the soccer side, what kind of people are we going to bring into this program? We always start with the people first. So if I was building a business, I would look at first at who I was going to partner with and what they could bring to the table, and then what I bring to the table, and surrounding yourself with people who are different than you are, which is how I built my staff. Diversity in my staff I would look for, because when I was a young coach, I wanted everybody to just tell me what I wanted to hear. And now that I'm an older coach, I want people to give me hardcore feedback, the stuff that I don't want to hear, because I know that's how I get better, and it pushes me out of that comfort zone.
So we're on this theme of building a brand and obviously the program and everything like that. So what would you say is the brand of University of Hawaii Soccer? What does it represent?
I think University of Hawaii Soccer is about being intense and competitive, but not taking yourself too seriously, because what we do is so hard. I always say in the recruiting process that we need steel, not aluminum. There's nothing wrong with aluminum. It's very functional. It's very, it's good, but steel is hardened and it's resilient, and that's what we need our players to be. So when we build our brand, we want to create an environment that is collaborative, filled with communication, and when there's conflict, we compromise. So I think that's kind of the theme that we want to set out. We always say our core value is ohana, and that's family in Hawaiian, but we take that seriously. Family means you don't always get along, you don't always get what you want, you don't always agree, but you care enough to compromise, communicate, collaborate, and find options and opportunities that work out for everyone.
Really appreciate this interview and getting a chance to talk to you and getting to know you a little bit. And that will conclude part one of our interview with head women's soccer coach at the University of Hawaii, Michele Nagamine. Be sure to come back and watch part two as we play a game with Coach called This or That.
Uh-oh.